There is so much happening right now. And I don't know about you, but I have been feeling such a tension, like a back and forth tension, and quite the level of conviction is how I've been feeling for the last couple of weeks. And then a lot of the prophets that I follow are basically speaking to all the feelings that I've been feeling. And so I wanted to talk to you about it today, what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing, and what I feel like you should be doing this month. So, welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast, where we talk about all things you, me, and Jesus. We are here on July the 7th, I believe. We're here on July the 7th, and we are talking about something is happening. Something is happening. And so I just want to preface this with I don't have all the details of what's happening. I just know something is happening, and I want to tell you what others are saying that I am connected to. Okay, so I relocated to Houston, Texas back in May, like a month and a half ago or so. And I knew that something was going to be different once I got here because anytime God asks me to go somewhere, there's a reason why he's asking me to go there. And when he was bringing me back to Houston, one of the things that I felt was that okay, I've been on a mission for the last 5 years, like giving out, right? So like I was up in Bethel, Redding, and I was growing and learning, but also serving, like giving out. And then when I went to San Diego for 3 years, I felt like I was giving way more out than I was receiving. And one of the things that I feel has been happening with me during that time is I wouldn't say that I've lost my way. I wouldn't say that at all. But I would say that because I haven't been in environments where people are going people are like just running really, really hard after God. They are like trying their best to be fully submitted. They're trying their best to do the right things in obedience. And then just the atmosphere of of it all, my main surroundings hasn't been all those people all the time. I haven't felt over the last 5 years where it's just like such an extreme conviction in a good way. But I felt like I maybe I would became lackadaisical. I'll just say that. But I was definitely more relaxed, I wasn't doing anything crazy, but I was still wasn't how I was 5 years ago when I was here and in an environment that where people were like extremely like, all right, we're going hard after God, all the things, you know what I mean? And so when I knew he was inviting me to come back, I was like, okay, I think some of that's gonna getting ready to happen again, like me kind of getting back into the swing of how I was 5 years ago, but obviously I'm at a different place in my life or whatever with whatever. And so once I got here, I knew that I could just focus on getting settled in. And of course, I would go to church that Sunday that I got here, of which I did. But I've also been traveling a lot. So like on Sundays, I haven't been here to be able to go to church, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? In a sense. But the last couple of weeks, I've just kind of been like, I feel this like tension, like who I have been operating as versus who I'm supposed to be, who I'm becoming, how God called me or whatever. I'm like, I just felt like there was this tension between this person and this. And I just kept feeling like I don't really know what the difference is between that person versus I don't really know. And I just kind of find myself just being like, okay, let's just chill out and let's just kind of go on this journey of being like, God, okay, help me understand what's happening, what message you're trying to convey to me and all the things. And a couple of weeks ago, I was at church and the pastor was preaching about forgiveness and all that type of stuff, the process of your heart and all that stuff. And as he was preaching, I was completely convicted. And it was convicted about my mom and my sisters because God bless them. I love them. But I allowed a lot of things to be for many years and not ever saying anything, right? I'll give you an example. because like the more I tell you, the better. So I'm the youngest of four, and I think I'm probably the more adventurous one, risk taker, or of the bunch, I guess. And when we were all in high school, I was the one that decided that I wasn't going to be sexually active because I watched how my sisters became after becoming sexually active, right? That they were like, I just felt like in my young person mind, I was like, they just went crazy. Once they started having sex, they just went crazy. And so I was just like, I'm just not going to do that because I don't want to go crazy. Now, granted, I don't know. That was just the decision that I made in my mind. And so eventually my sisters all had kids. One of my sisters has one of my sisters has two, and another one has three. And I was just like, I'm just not going to do that. Right. And I think one of the things that happened with them is, once you have children, you got to have some type of like settlement, like in your life. You got to be stable, whatever. And I don't know this to be true. I think that once they all started having kids, they weren't really going for, like they didn't go to college and whatever, for whatever reason. It doesn't mean that I'm better than them because I went. I'm just saying, whatever. So eventually I ended up going to college. And of course I started seeing more of the world, experiencing more of the world, through these different types of experiences. And one of the things that I started to experience when I went to college was, kind of like the separation. And listen, we all live our own lives. Like once you're like out of your mom's house, you start living your own life. We're all living our own lives. And I started to just experience the separation where I'm the one that was always coming back to like spend time with everybody, just try to stay connected. And we just weren't keeping any kind of connection. Unless I was coming home, but that really wasn't connection. That was me thinking we had a connection. And so since college, like 2002, 2004 or whatever, I was constantly coming back to just visit, spend money to come back, take time off work, fly, and whatever, no matter what state I was in, take time off to come, spend money, just doing this thing over and over again, thinking that I have this connection to my family. And I don't really have the connection. I'm just flying in and hoping and praying that I'll get the love and affection that I'm desiring, but never getting it and not really knowing that was happening. And I would just do that for years and years and years. Never, people not sending birthday cards, rarely even calling me on my birthday, rarely even texting my birthday, holidays, whatever. Just rarely having any kind of connection, unless I was trying to make it happen. Until 4 years ago, when I went home, I was just like, within 12 hours of me going home, I rebooked my flight and left 12 hours later. So I was like, gone. It was Christmas time. And that's when, because I started going through therapy, and that was when God started saying to me like, hey, what you think is happening with your family is not actually happening. You guys are not close. These people don't call you. They don't text you. They don't send you birthday cards. They don't ever try to come see you. You've been gone from home for 20 years. They have never come to see you. They haven't tried to come see you. And I used to always say, well, it's because they don't have the money. And they're like, that's not true. Look around their house. And every time I would go, they have new cars, new all this stuff. And he's like, they have the money to come see you. They're choosing not to spend the money to come and see you. And I was like, oh man. So, because of that, the more that I've realized, the more I'm like, oh, well, let me stop having this false responsibility of coming there, being there, whatever, but then I had this really big surgery at the end of last year. And I was like, okay, I know how they are. Let me not even tell them I'm having this surgery because I got to go get the support where I'm actually going to get the support. So they found out that I had the surgery because I posted online. I was just like, I'm at a surgery. And that's how they found out. And so I got a couple individual text messages or whatever. One of my sisters started immediately trying to get emotional support from me while I had just come off the surgery table. Crazy. And they're just not really reaching out. Like none of them ever called me. None of them ever tried to come see me. They weren't texting or calling, obviously, like every day, checking on like how I'm doing after having surgery, whatever. And then when one of my sisters had surgery, she created this text group and I agreed to be in this text group. And then everybody's all chatting in this text group, checking on her. And I get to this moment in time where I'm just like, wait a minute. I just had surgery and nobody was checking on me like this. And I just finally hit my wins in and I was just like, I'm done here. Like, what are we doing? We're not actually trying to connect and get to know each other. Otherwise, what's happening here would have been trying to happen for me a month ago when I was having surgery too. She has a husband. I don't have a husband. And I was like, okay, got it. So it was that moment I decided I got to get away from them. I can't allow any of this stuff happening because I just got too much going on. I'm trying to have my own healing. So I blocked all of them, my mama included. And it sounds mean to say, but it's like, it was what I needed for me and for my mental health so they could stop calling, stop texting, doing all this stuff, you know? And when I was in the service, that was a long story, but when I was in the service, I could feel like God was like, you got to forgive them. You have to forgive them. And that doesn't mean you got to be connected and have like regular conversations, but you've got to forgive them. And so I'm in the service and then I just unblock them. I never say anything. I just unblock them. And I just said, okay, that was for me. That was a huge step, you know? But I could still feel like the tension, right? I haven't been, so I used to go to a church in San Diego and I started to realize this church was not going to help me grow because the pastor there, they made it very clear that the calling on their life is to the young adults. And they were like, this church is, we're mainly focused on young adults. And so as an older adult, I was like, they're saying they cannot help me. They are not going to try to help me here. And it's not a bad thing that they're not. It's that this is their calling. So I've got to decide what I'm going to do about that. So I decided to leave. And been going to a different church and I'm growing a little bit, but not like fully, you know, or whatever. And so I wasn't tithing. And so I wasn't tithing for like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months, which is, I have never done that since I started tithing in like 2008, I've been tithing ever since. And so I hadn't been tithing. So then here I am with this conviction about forgiveness. And then with this conviction about like, I'm back in church, getting back to tithing. And I was like, okay, let me get back to tithing. But I still keep feeling this, like something is happening. Something is happening that's bigger than what I know. And it wasn't until I started following some of my favorite prophets again on Facebook and seeing them talk about the month of July. And they were like, a lot of acceleration is happening in June, but there's some big things happening in July. And they wouldn't explain exactly what's happening in July, but what they were saying was that seek the Lord. And the sense that I got was more of a warning, right? And the warning I felt was seek the Lord, make sure that you're in right standing with him, obedience to him, because if you're not, there are some different things that are brewing. And I was like, okay, I can see that while I'm just watching my own repentance and changing and all that. And then immediately, because God hates me being on dating apps, I immediately was like, because I've been on a dating app for like a week. And I was like, all right, I deleted my profile. I was like, okay, get off. That's another thing. And I just kept going like, okay, something is happening. What else is it that I should be doing? That should be, in right standing. And the pastor of the church where I go to now, he was on a Facebook Live. And I was getting ready for bed, doing my nighttime routine. And I decided to just go on his Facebook Live. And he started talking about the glory. I'm going to misquote him. But he started talking about the glory. And as it pertains to the glory, man, I'm going to get this so wrong. But just try to bear with me. What the premise of what I got is that it's not that you just need to get right with God or he's going to expose you, right? Because that's what people are feeling like, that they're going to be exposed. Because one thing that is happening is pastors, preachers, leaders, worship leaders this exposure is happening. So there's a massive pastor that, just recently, I guess he did some inappropriate things with a 15-year-old 20 years ago, and it got exposed. And a bunch of other people are having all these things that's happened in the past be exposed. And it's just like all this stuff is being exposed, and the stuff that people has hidden, and it's like, it's being exposed. And so what people's senses was get right or get exposed. And the pastor was like, it's not about just get right or get exposed. What I feel like he was saying was that God's glory is coming. Like he's where he shines a light on you. He shines a light on his people, and not a light as in, let me see your deepest, darkest secrets, but let me shine a light on you because I want to shine a light on you. Right. And so when God shines a light on you, you get elevated. It's like, it's boom. It's like right now I'm very well lit. You can see everything. If there were certain things showing up, you could see it because it's very lit here. Right. And I feel like what he was saying is that God's light is here. It's shining on people. It's going to continue shining on people. And we need to make sure that we are basically kind of without spot or wrinkle. So that way, when the light is on us, nothing is like being exposed or whatever. And when I heard him say that, I was like, this makes a lot of sense, because this is what I have been feeling. That's like, my sister texted me right before my birthday and she was like, are you still mad at me? Something. And I just kind of was just like, I'm not mad at you anymore. I just don't know how to engage with you. Like, I don't know how to do this, because every time we try to do this, the same thing happens. I don't know how to do this, but I'm not mad. I just don't know how to do this, And, but I'm glad that I like unblocked and was like, and I learned and chose to engage, that way I'm glad I just chose to engage. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I chose to start tithing. I'm glad I chose to just do these little things or whatever. I'm glad I chose to get off the dating app, all these little things. And I'm also just seeking him, just going, okay, more, what else? What else is you want me to be aware of that just allows me to just be in right standing with you? Not because I'm in fear of, or you should be in fear of him exposing you, but so that we can have a reverence, a fear of the Lord in terms of just reverence to him, what he has invited us to do and be, and how we are to show up, And I think that, I'm not sure what you have been feeling or sensing, but when I thought about today's episode, I said, if I'm getting that on my own and I'm watching the prophets say all the exact same things in a different way, I said, I think it's my responsibility to tell you the same, that it's an opportunity for you to go before God and say, okay, here is how I've been living my life. Here is what I've been doing, being, saying, whatever. Here is what your word says. I want to get back in right standing with you, whatever that looks like. That doesn't look like you going on social media and telling all your stuff. Doesn't look like you going to your pastor and telling them all your stuff. It means you going to God and then following in line with what he is inviting you to do, who he has called you to be, and going in that direction. I think that is what the invitation is, that if we need to make something public, then we'll do that. I don't know why Tony Evans did it, but Tony Evans, the pastor in, I think it's in Dallas, Texas, he chose to he sat down from ministry because something happened years ago. I don't know what it was, but something happened years ago. And then the other big preacher I was mentioned earlier, the church actually sat him down because he was involved with a 15-year-old or something like that. I don't have all the details. And I think that we're all just getting an opportunity to be like, hey, so we can get this right together before a light is shine, right? So we always hear about when people, quote unquote, get exposed. We all had opportunities to do right. Right. So we all have heard about P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, and all the stuff. Well, Sean had lots of opportunities to just get right, just to do right. And Sean just kept choosing not. And so then all of a sudden, here's this thing and now this thing. And there's all these things that are now have come out. But it's like he had these amazing moments to change, and we have the exact same opportunity too. So we can look at other people, but we also are given an opportunity as well. We may not be as grand of a scale as international TV or whatever, but it's more important that we are focused on God and what could happen in our relationship with God, you know? So I wanted to record this to say something is happening and I'm watching it happen, my own life, other people, and I guarantee you it's happening in your life, whether you know it or not. And right now is a really important time for you to be having a conversation with God to figure out in what areas or ways do you need to turn and then go in the direction of Him and stop doing maybe some things that you may have been doing or what have you, or being or whatever, and just follow along with Him, because He's gonna bless you. He wants to bless you, but He also doesn't want the blessings to hurt you. He doesn't want any hurt or harm to come to you in anything. And so we're given an opportunity. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you don't feel afraid by this, but I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope it was encouraging, and a blessing for you. I hope you appreciate me for sharing all of my stories, because I feel like I can't help you if I won't tell you the truth, you know? So thank you so much for listening and for watching.